Thank you so much for inviting me. I think it's too strong, isn't it?
We're so glad to have you here. I'm going to mention that Miri and I spoke last night briefly, and I was told that Miri was also in New York on 9/11, and was there when Rabin was assassinated. And I said, I'm a little afraid to be in the room with you. And she said, it's okay, that means you're going to be okay. So here we are. But you've had quite a life, I will say. So Miri, before we sort of talk about October 7th, which will obviously be pretty dark, I wanted you to paint us a picture of life in the Gaza envelope at Kibbutz Be'eri. Let everyone understand, what was life like there? You had mentioned it's one of the most beautiful places on earth at certain times of the year. So just tell us about life at Be'eri before October 7th.
Sure. So Kibbutz Be'eri is a very special kibbutz, and we used to say always that it's 99% heaven and 1%. What is the 1%? Hell, of course. It's the opposite of heaven. Why? What's the 1%? The 1% is the rockets that was sent to us from Gaza. But we knew how to deal with these rockets because we had a safe room. It's like shelters that was built especially for bombs. In Kibbutz Be'eri, before October 7, there was 1,200 members, kids, families, that we lived in a shared community. You know what shared community means? That all the money that we earn goes into the same bank account and divided between all the members of the kibbutz. This is how it is. So we lived a very peaceful life. We have a big printing house which called Dfus Be'eri, if you heard about it. And that's how it was. We can walk. Now, everybody says that it's so strange that my kids can walk, and I don't even know where they are. They're just walking around the kibbutz, and they come back when they come back, and I'm not looking for them. So that's how it was. A very peaceful and free and equal community.
You lived how far away were you from Gaza?
4.2 kilometers. I don't know exactly how much is it in miles. I know you're doing miles. 2 miles? 2.5?
2.5 miles away. Yeah. And at that time, what were your hopes? There were rockets, but obviously you had a great love for the area, for the kibbutz. What were your hopes for coexistence with the people in Gaza at that time before October 7th?
Hope is a big word, and coexistence is a big word as well. But they live over there, the Gazan people. I'm not talking about the Hamas terrorists, of course. And we live 4.2 or how many miles that you said from them. And when my parents was young, they used to go to the market in Gaza and used to eat falafel in Gaza. There was no border then. After they put the border, things started to get a little bit warmy. For 25 years, we had rockets in Kibbutz Be'eri and all around the Gaza Strip. So I had hope that it's going to be quiet one day. I had hope that, all the politicians will do what they have to do. And so we continue to live a peaceful life. Of course, we never thought that something like what happened on October 7 could happen. It never crosses our mind.
So let's talk about that day, October 7th, your family, your experience for yourself, for your family, and for the kibbutz generally. Tell us about the day. Walk us through it. I know it was an unbelievably long day, and when we spoke on the phone, you said to me, it's hard to explain, and how long that day would be, and what was happening minute by minute. You can only imagine. I can think like every minute just must have been really very difficult. So tell us about it.
Yeah, I'll try to do it briefly. It's like you said, it's a very long
you've got some
story.
time. You have a little time. Go.
Okay. So we just, like everybody talks about 6:29. I remember it was 6:30 anyway. We got an alarm, and I was looking, and we got an alarm, and we had like very large noises. It sounds like thunders. It wasn't sound like rockets. I look outside the window and I see this is October. You know, October in Israel is very shiny. And then I understood that it's something else. I went outside my terrace. I even take videos and pictures of the rockets. I said, this one going to Tel Aviv, this one going to Be'er Sheva. Like, it's like, it's not that we used to it every day, of course, but every few months, this is what's happening. It looks a bit strange, but that's what we thought it is. Anyway, we all know that that's not what it was. 30 minutes after, we got an SMS that there might be a penetration of terrorists in Kibbutz Be'eri, so go to the safe room. So that's what we did. We never dreamed that it actually happened because they said it might be. So we went inside the safe room, barefoot, didn't take no water, no food. My daughter was with her jammies, and the safe room is my daughter's bedroom. So we went inside. We thought 1 hour max, we're gonna go out. But then at the time, 7 and 10 minutes, I understood that it's an historic situation. Not because I'm so smart and not because I understand history. The only reason was because, I'm sorry, I'm giving you back, because I heard shooting and shouting in Arabic down my window. It never happened. So for me, it's an historic situation. I didn't know that there was Nova or there was another kibbutzim. I didn't know anything. But I know that now I can't go out of my safe room. And then time goes by, and we are sitting, me, my husband, my 2 daughters, Yahel and Ori, which is over there on table 16. And my son, Eitam, which is 17 now. He was 16 back then. Just staying in the safe room, barely speaking, barely talking, because we need to be so quiet in order for the terrorists to not hear us. And when we need to go to the toilet, we couldn't do it. We did it in the safe room. It was scary, but the most scary part was about 12:30 at noon. We understand that the terrorists are penetrating our building. I don't remember if one said before, but we lived in a 2 floors building, with 4 apartments. We lived on the 2nd floor. So the terrorists started to enter the apartments of our neighbors. They tried to open their doors. When they couldn't succeed, they set fire in their houses, and then they managed to go outside their windows. All of the time, we hear that people are getting shot. People are vanishing. We don't hear from them anymore. Houses.
Are you on a WhatsApp with members of the kibbutz speaking to each other?
There was a very strong WhatsApp group. Most of the people here is women. So you know the moms group is always the one that, yeah. So the mom group became the main WhatsApp group. And then we hear very, very tough thing. One of my neighbors said that her daughter, 9 years old, was shot through the door, yeah, and was murdered in her hands. It's hard to talk about it, but you have to know what happened. So we hear all this. Someone here told me that she met Avida Bachar, if you heard about him, and what happened to him. His daughter, she was only 13, she was writing on this WhatsApp group what happened to her mother, and that was unfortunately murdered, and that her father was injured very badly, and that her brother was killed, and all of this in the WhatsApp group. And we know what's happening. And all of us asking, where is the army? Where is the army? But they tell us the army is on its way. The army is on its way, but no army. It's noon, it's afternoon, and the army doesn't come. So at 12:30, Masaminos, they enter our building. Then we knew that after they finish with our neighbors, they will come to us. But before they came to us, they came downstairs to the first floor, where Ablu Miles, our friend, our neighbor, an 80-year-old man, lived all by himself. And he wasn't hiding. Somehow, maybe he didn't think it's true what's happening. And they caught him immediately. And what we heard was him talking to them in Arabic, because he was Egyptian, he knew Arabic, but we didn't understand a word he's saying, and they saying. But we only understand his last sentence, which was, take everything you want, but please have a mercy on me. You can guess they didn't have a mercy on him. And the girls and everybody, we hear the shootings, but we didn't see anything. So, you know, the mind did the rest of the picture. And then immediately they came to our house. This moment was the most scary moment in our life. They came immediately to the safe room door, and they tried.
You had no lock on the door, right?
We had some kind of lock up.
Like a sliding.
Yeah. But we didn't have a lock, because it's not supposed to be locked. I mean, it's for bombs. It's not for penetrations of terrorists. It's not built for it. This is not the meaning of the safe room. But all this time, my husband looked for a solution how to secure the handle. So he took my daughter's Yahel's desk, he put it down the handle, put some books, and so the handle didn't move. So when the terrorists came and then tried to bomb the door, they didn't succeed. I mean, but at this point, when they were standing behind the door, shouting at us in Arabic, we knew that if they succeed, so it's the end of us. But we didn't want it to happen, of course. And I remember that we didn't speak, we didn't talk. I just closed my eyes and wanted it to be over with, but they didn't succeed. And so they started to burn the house. They put some kind of very smelly, heavy gas. We don't know what gas it was, but immediately the entire house was on fire. Then I told my husband and my kids that was in the room with us that I'm not going to die here today, not from smoke inhaling, not from being burned. This is a terrible death. I'd rather be dying from shooting if I can choose how am I going to die. So I want to jump from the window after I understand that people are going out their windows. At the beginning, my husband said, no, let's stay in the safe room. But I said, I'm going to do it with or without you. So Ori is my little daughter. She said, let's jump, let's jump. And then he understood that I'm very serious. So he said, okay, we'll jump, but not now. And I said, what do you mean, not now? The house is on fire. And he said, let's buy us some time, because we knew that if we jump, the terrorists are waiting down the window or on the roof, the next roof, to shoot us. So let's buy us some time. So I said, okay, it's a good idea, but how will we know when it's the most dangerous point? So he said, when the door will be hot, we know that it's now or never. So I was sitting with my face to the door. He was sitting near the door. After a few minutes, he didn't have to say anything to me because I saw all the magnets that Yahel, my daughter, she puts on the whole happy events, you know, how he put it on a metal door, starting to melt along the door. And then I said, it's time. So what we did was, I went to the window and then I said, okay, it's nice that I said that I'd rather be dying from shooting, but of course I'd rather not be dead at all, if it's possible. How can I see what's happening outside? If I take my head out, they'll shoot me. So what can I do? I just, like an instinct, I took my cell phone, I put it on video. I took a picture of the roof and of the ground, and I took it back, and I saw that the area was like clear. I mean, we know that there at that point was more than 500 terrorists all over Kibbutz Be'eri. You know, they find 340 bodies of terrorists in Kibbutz Be'eri. So we knew that there was many, because of the WhatsApp group, like in 5 minutes, more than 50 people said that there are terrorists in their house. So we knew that it's hundreds. So I see that the place is clear.
What time is it at this point?
It was about 1:30 at noon. So I just opened the window and like threw the nets downstairs, and we started jumping. My husband jumped first. After this, Ori, Yahel, and Yahel is also afraid of heights. And she just jumped. And after many days, I asked her, how did you did it? How did you jump? You wasn't afraid? And she said, I wasn't thinking. I didn't want to risk anyone, so I just jumped. So my son jumped the third, and I jumped last one. And all of us, we stood up. My daughter, Yahel, got hurt in her leg, but she stood up. But my son, he stayed on the floor. And, you know, like a mother, I thought, he's the spoiled one. Why does he stay on the floor? It's not time to be spoiled. So I just shouted at him, Eitam, please stand up. And he said, Mom, I can't. And I said, just stand up. And he said, Mom, I can't. And then he just took his leg up, and it was like disconnected. So I understand that he broke his foot. We had a plan to go to a neighbor about 70 meters from us that was standing outside his house with a pistol, and he said, like in a movie, come to us, I will cover you. Yeah, just like this. And we couldn't do it anymore. I mean, we can't run now for 70 meters. So I don't know, like an angel from the sky, when I'm trying to help him, like stand up, and I take my head up, I see two of my neighbors risking their life, going outside of their house, Ayelet and Eitan, and they just called us, come to our safe room, stay with us. And it was for me like a very special moment. At this point, they just rescued our life at this point. And we went to their safe room. We stayed with them in their safe room until about 6:45 at night. This time I was in contact with my parents. We were in contact with her family. What? Okay. I lost contact with my parents. We are third generation in Kibbutz Be'eri, like she said. My parents lived in the Zaitim neighborhood, one of the neighborhoods that got hurt the most. 70% of the people who live in the Zaitim neighborhood was murdered. My parents got very lucky because they made their house as their as a place to shoot rockets from. So they didn't care about who's staying in the house. They just used their house. They burned it from both of the sides, but the main building was okay. And we lost contact with them at about 5 o'clock. At that point that I knew that there are terrorists in their house from the morning, I just felt that I'm saying goodbye to them because I was sure that they won't survive it.
Had the IDF come at that point?
The IDF entered Be'eri about 2:30 in the afternoon, but they came to our house, to Ayelet's house, in 6:45 to evacuate us under the attack of the terrorists. I just want to remind something, that when we were in the safe room and we heard about everything that's happening, Ayelet was talking to her two small nieces. Unfortunately, their father and mother and two big brothers was shot. Cheni, my friend, he went to school with me. His wife and his two big sons was murdered. They didn't know that they are murdered, but they know that they got shot. And the little boys stay alone in under a tree, don't knowing what to do. And Ayelet and her daughter keep them safe and told them not to move in order for them to stay alive. And that's what happened. But most of the family got murdered.
How many members of Kibbutz Be'eri were murdered, and how many were taken hostage?
102 members of Kibbutz Be'eri was murdered, 10 kids. One of them was a very good friend of my daughter Yahel, Liel Chatzroni. It's hard to talk about it. 30 people, including kids, was kidnapped. The best friend of Ori, Emily, then she was 8 years old, was kidnapped. She returned on the first settlement with all the women and kids. And most of the people from Kibbutz Be'eri came back from captivity in Adils. The one who came back in coffins, unfortunately, was murdered in captivity. We now have 6 more friends of us which are not alive anymore. 3 of them was murdered in captivity, and 3 of them was kidnapped after they got murdered on the 7th of October.
Before we talk about after October 7th and the role that you sort of jumped into play, I just wanted to ask a little more about what you found out maybe right afterwards. I know you had mentioned like the kibbutz did have some security. There was a gate. I'm also curious if there were any security people who were armed. Were there, what was going on?
You know, the group of people that's supposed to take care of the kibbutz in such, not such a situation, because we never dream about such as this, but there was 12 people that should have like ammunition, but the ammunition was installed in some locked place because this was the army decision. And on October 7, a person, Ilan Weiss, that at the beginning, the person who was supposed to open it, he got killed in a minute. He was Arik Kraunik. He was killed when he was near the place where all the ammunition was installed. So another person called to open the door, and he was murdered when he went outside his house. So they never had an ammunition. Only thing that they, like pistols, that some of them had at home. 6 of them was murdered in October 7, and 6 of them survived.
You mentioned that the terrorists had the gate code to the kibbutz. Is that something
That's
you can
what
talk
we
about?
think. I mean, yeah. I mean, we saw them. The gate was open. The only and they didn't bomb the gate. So we guess that they knew the code. It wasn't a very sophisticated code, 1010. But somebody, it's not now. It's not the code now. But if you remember the code. But we guess that they knew. They came with maps. They knew exactly where some people live. They knew where to go. Like they knew where's the place with the money. They just knew everything.
Can you tell us about the members of the kibbutz now? Are they together, or what portion are together, and where are you at the moment?
Most of the people of the kibbutz, like 700, I told you we were 1,200 before October 7th. 102 was murdered. So 700 now are living in a temporary kibbutz that was built for us very quickly in about a year, near Be'er Sheva, near Kibbutz Chatzerim, if you know where it is. And the others, some of them are spread, and about 70 of our members live in Kibbutz Be'eri. Most of them are older people, like my parents, that don't have kids, no kids in Kibbutz Be'eri right now, and very young people after the military that come to help rebuild Be'eri.
I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about your role now. After October 7th, you kind of jumped into action on behalf of the kibbutz, and I'm hoping you can just tell us what role you're playing and what your goals are with respect to the people of Be'eri and how you're trying to help them.
Like I said, on October 7, at the exact hour, 7 and 10 minutes, I understand this is 710. I don't know how it was, but it's a very symbolic thing. I understood that this is an historic moment, an historic event. So unconsciously, I had 2 aims, 2 goals. One of them, of course, to survive, me and my family. The second is to survive in order to tell. So this is one of the reasons why I'm sitting here now and telling you the story. And the role picked me, okay? All the media started to come to me, and because of my history in marketing, and I knew the job, I decided that my life is not gonna be the same. I decided to close my business, to return almost 100,000 shekels to my customers, and just to build like a communication and image group for the kibbutz, because I knew that after this event, from a very successful kibbutz, it's now a kibbutz that suffered really very much, and the image is gonna be very bad. So what I did on this almost 1.5 years is to try to fix the image of Kibbutz Be'eri, not to erase, of course, what happened to us, because we need to remember it, but how we grow from it. We suffered the most. In Kibbutz Be'eri, it was the kibbutz that suffered the biggest amount of murdered people. So what was important to me is to remind always what happened to us on October 7th, and to remind everybody that can no longer speak for himself. The second thing is, of course, do everything we can in order to bring our friends back from captivity. There was one story about when the deal last November, when all the women and children came back. So there was a child that came back without a mother. Raya Rotem, if you remember the name, and Hila, the daughter, came without her mother. Hamas, he broke the deal that he was supposed to. So what we did in this, like 48 hours after we understand that Raya is not going to come back, we just did, like we stood, I don't have the phrasing for it, but we did many things in the media all over the world. We took her brother to like hundreds of
events, places to speak, to let the world know what was happening.
Exactly. And she was released on the last day. I mean...
Yes, I remember.
Thank you. Because we knew how strong is the media and how it can help us. So we use that, and the media really wants to help us. So that's what we did, but now it's a little bit different.
So just to kind of close out, do you want to rebuild? Does the community want to rebuild? And what would it take for you to feel safe? And also to sort of try to go back to a normal life. It's probably a lot of, I don't want to call them tourists, but people who are going to see, what had happened. And, how do you see the future of the kibbutz? What would allow you to move back, all of you, and to feel safe?
So first of all, we really hope that Trump will succeed with his... We hope. I mean, this is. We need no Hamas in Gaza, okay? Because you ask about coexist. You can't coexist with terrorists.
I asked Miri before we talked. I said, "Do you know the word coexistence?" Because I'm going to ask you about it. So my question was, before October 7th. I think you felt like there could be coexistence. You had mentioned to me on the phone you'd picked up a hitchhiker from Gaza and brought them closer to the border. After October 7th, as you look to rebuilding, do you see a future of coexistence?
Not with terrorists, of course not. And we knew that like they said, the uninvolved. They came in, they steal, they kidnapped. So now we don't know if they're actually uninvolved. We understand that everybody is involved some way or another, because if they were uninvolved, they might help us bring back our hostages. But nobody does these things. We are planning, it's not planning, it's for 1.5 years. We are rebuilding Be'eri. This is very important to us, of course. This is another aim of me, that to show the world, to show the country and the world that Kibbutz Be'eri is a strong kibbutz, is a very powerful, it can rise from the worst thing that happened to him, and that's what we are doing. Personally, I plan on going back to Kibbutz Be'eri and build my new house there, because my house, I don't have a house now. So I think that from every bad thing that happened to us, we can choose if to be the victim or to grow from it. And of course, I choose to grow.
Thank you so much. I think the resilience is just absolutely incredible to see. And thank you. It's really, and
Thank you.
I'm sure it was hard to tell the story. So thank you all for being so polite and listening. Are we taking questions? Gina will get very angry with me if I take questions. I'm so sorry.
Please. We're asking the same questions. We're waiting for the big investigation.
Did everybody hear the question about why the IDF took so long? Yeah.
We don't. Nobody tells us. I mean, if they would have told us, you would have knew it as well. Sorry.